The biggest issue that I see is also the thing that I always see first, and that is maybe the video opens with a drone shot. They show beautiful scenery. Here's some trees, here's some nature, here's the venue, here's the bride's dress. Like, I literally have watched videos where I'm a minute in and then I finally see it, a human face. Finally. This is about people. The wedding video is about people. Where are the people? Where are they?
Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. We have an awesome episode today. Very, very special guest. But before we introduce him, Jason, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show.
Oh, thanks for having me on again.
My show. I appreciate you being my first guest every episode.
Every episode. And your interview with me, I have to admit, I don't feel like you're putting much into it.
No. I mean, I definitely don't edit it. I'm probably the only podcast that has the guest.
You literally have one question,
every episode.
Which is,
how are you doing?
How are you?
Yeah.
It's like,
That's it.
it's bad. Anyway, like you said, we have a great guest today. Matt Johnson's going to be on the show. But before we get to Matt, I just want to tell you guys, today's show is brought to you by The Music Bed. If you want to get a nice little free month, head down in the description, click on there. Great service that we use. You know what's funny? I'll give you my Music Bed story. People complain about the subscriptions. Do you remember how happy we were when they did a subscription?
I remember I was doing my budget, my yearly budget, right around the time when the Music Bed came out and they said, hey, here's a subscription. It's like whatever it was.
I think $800.
$800. And I remember thinking, that's going to save me so much money this year. So we're spending $10,000, $12,000 a year.
Yeah, on
music.
So that's how much we valued it at one point, that we were happy to spend $10,000. So for you to spend $800, it's a steal, and I'm telling you, it'll elevate your films to use good music. We love the Music Bed. Of course, there are other services out there, but that's what we use. So check it out if you want a free month down there. Anyway, we got Matt Johnson on. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Before we get into today's show, we're going to put you through something that we call 3 questions.
It's like hazing, right?
Yeah, it's
You're
really,
haze me?
Yeah, it's intense. It's an intense
Perfect.
time. And so we're going to get into that. So you ready to do it?
So ready.
Okay, so question number 1, Matt. What is in your kit?
A lot of stuff, and it's one of those. It's a matter of contention in our house this year because, well, in the past year, the Sony A7S III came out, and so I immediately told my wife I need to buy a lot of these. I need to buy a lot of this camera, and she was like, "Okay." And so, the entire kit is now A7S IIIs across the board, which is nice. We actually invested in 3 of them because I shoot, my wife shoots, and we film BTSs for all the weddings that we're shooting. Some of you guys have some knowledge about, I'd say. But after going through the hassle of like dealing with BTS shooters that had different cameras with different colors, etc., it was like, why don't we just have them shoot on the same exact camera, and then it's way easier. So we did that, and that's been wonderful. I have a Frankenstein collection of camera lenses, though, which I'm slowly migrating to the native Sony ecosystem over time, but we're not there yet. Definitely not there yet. But depending on when this podcast comes out, the rumors are that Sony may be dropping a 50mm 1.2.
They don't have that already? I'm not a Sony guy, so I'm like, that's like a staple Canon lens. They don't have that?
That's
Nope.
Pretty dope.
Not yet, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I only use 32-bit float audio now because ears can only hear 32-bit.
Yeah.
You know, they can't hear anything. That's a joke. Okay, no, I still have a ton of Tascam DR10Ls that I throw at anyone and everyone.
Do you have to give your clients a discount?
For the Tascams? Like, I'm sorry, the audio quality is only 24-bit, not 32. So we will offer you a
8-bit, an $8,000 discount.
An 8-bit discount. Yes, just to suffer through. Oh man. Otherwise, there's a gimbal. There's some handheld stuff. There's been a lot of minimalism in wedding filmmaking, I feel, and I'm all for that because I'm getting older and it's hard for me to carry things. And so I'm like, oh man, this is great. don't have to drag my slider out anymore. This is wonderful.
All right, Matt. So question number 2 is, what is a film that you've done that you are proud of?
Okay, I have 2 answers for you. First of all, with the pandemic, with the lockdown, with all this sort of stuff, all that I can think about and talk about lately has been like traveling to foreign countries, which we haven't done in a long time. And so we shot this wedding in Iceland back in 2018, and I've been telling Rachel, like, we should go back. We could go back. We could do the same exact thing again. I don't care. We could just go do that again. And she's like, we've already been to Iceland. We drove around the country. It's fine. I'm like, no, like, I'm okay with doing the same thing again. That's okay. I just need to leave Texas. Hasn't happened yet, but hopefully soon. My second video is not actually a wedding. It was this. I like finding like really obscure videos that I can make that answer like a really niche question that people are like, what? But like the people that are looking for it are like, thank you, this is wonderful. And so I literally made this like really dumb short video, like how to enable thumbnails on Windows for like 10-bit footage, like super niche, super obscure. But I posted this morning and I've got like 50 comments so far. People are like, thank you. I've been looking for this for months now. This is exactly what I needed. I always think that's hilarious to do.
All right, Matt. So question number 3 is, do you know what a LUT is?
LUTs are like beard oil for your videos. And so they make them real pretty and real shiny. I get comments like people saying, hey, we really like your colors in your videos. And I was like, oh yeah, I should probably like sell those as presets at some point. And that was 4 years ago. And so finally I was like, okay, I'll actually put these things together and sell them. And what's cool is that I was able to make some presets that work with even like the newest cameras. So I bought a Canon R5 so I could have footage to test with that. And I bought 3 A7S IIIs. So I got a lot of A7S III footage. And the jump to 10-bit for Sony has been fantastic. And so I really wanted to make sure that like presets would look good with that.
Where can people find your LUTs? Are they on your website?
Yeah, whoismatt.com/LUTs.
Cool.
I'll take you to the LUTs page. Check it out.
Love it. And I actually looked at your LUTs, and they are very nice. They look great.
Thanks, buddy.
Go buy them. Make him a rich man. Does your wedding filmmaking business offer live streaming? Maybe you're just looking to get into live streaming. Wherever you find yourself today, one of the most overlooked elements of a successful live stream is securing a rock-solid connection to your final destination. In that case, you should check out the LiveU Solo. The LiveU Solo offers bonded cellular streaming, which combines up to 4 separate internet connections into a single, fully redundant connection. Live stream with confidence to any platform from basically any location. This thing is battery powered, they're plug and play, and they're supported by LiveU's innovative LRT service. The LiveU Solo is perfect for any event videographer that needs an easy, on-the-go, reliable stream. Get one today. All right, so Matt, so this is me being totally honest with you about you, Matt Johnson. The first time I really heard about you was right when I was like, oh, I'm gonna like maybe venture right before Vision Quest last year, like that venture of that summer. And I realized that's ridiculous because I know you were doing a lot of YouTube stuff, but I was like, oh, who's this guy? And then like whatever, but I think it was like 2 months later, Vision Quest happened, something like that, and we met at Vision Quest. But like after that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check out his content, and like I sincerely mean this. Like I think what you're doing as a educator is like significant, making really like a big impact on people, and I think so. That's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, is because like for us, like when you get into an education space, and of course we're selling products and YouTube and all that junk, it's easy to get people who are just like clearly cash grabby, and they're not into it for helping people. And like the fact that you're like, I want to make a weird video about a 10-bit thumbnail. So I just wanted to say that to get the show going, is like I really appreciate what you do, and I think you're one of the good ones. So
it's a lot of fun just helping people, you know.
Yes.
I think one of the things that makes our industry really unique is just how tight most people are. Most people in the industry, like if you want to talk to people at the top, like yourself, like, you know, Alex Douglas, like, you know, Cherish and Lindsay, like really just people at the top of their game. Like everyone's pretty tight. It's pretty easy to just reach out and hang out and like get to know people. And like since we are a small bunch, it's a lot of fun, and there's just awesome. If you want to get plugged into awesome community, you totally can. Like I think that's an awesome part. And that's what I realized at Vision Quest. I haven't been to Venture yet. I think I want to make it out there for the next one potentially, just to hang out and see old friends. But yeah, definitely something I love about kind of what you do and our industry in general. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, definitely.
We talked a little bit about gear, because obviously we're both Wedding Film School, and who is Matt Johnson talks a lot about gear in general. And something that came up was just G.A.S. And if you haven't heard what G.A.S is, if you're at home listening to this and you're like, what are they talking about?
It's just you have a serious case of G.A.S, which is gear acquisition syndrome.
Yes. And so, being people that love gear, all three of us, we were like, man, we should really talk about balance, right? Because you can't just have, every piece of gear that comes along. You will go broke. Even if you make a lot of money, you will still go broke buying gear every single year. You mentioned that you just picked up, a few new Sony A7 IIIs. What kind of drove that decision? What were you using before, and kind of what brought you to that place?
It's funny because I'm always trying to be mindful of what the reason is that I want new gear. And there's a difference between it being like, oh, this is the shiny new thing, I need to get it, and this will actually help me make films better. For example, the new DJI FPV drone recently got announced, and that thing looks so cool. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Like, I have absolutely zero need for a drone that will fly 87 miles per hour. But do I want it? Oh my gosh, yes, I want it. Oh man, I texted my friends like 8 a.m. as soon as the thing got announced. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't really want that. And then he messaged me again 10 minutes later, and it was just a screenshot of his B&H cart saying that it had like been purchased. And I was like, you're sending me mixed messages here. Okay, I love it though. I think it's great.
I think that looks so fun that I would take a trip to Arizona just to fly it.
Yes, exactly. And so, but I have to look at it. I'm like, is this going to help me film weddings? Is this going to make my films better? No, it's not. Like, nobody needs, okay, I would love to see an FPV wedding, like, that's like legit shot. Like, shoot it all with an FPV drone. It'd be incredible. Figure out the audio somehow with like those motors buzzing around you. Oh my gosh. But like, it's not going to help. Like, I'm not going to ask my wife, like, hey, can we buy this thing? Because we don't need it. So
I was going to ask you. So, it's not going to help me film better weddings, AKA my wife will never let me buy it. Right.
Well, because Rachel shoots with me.
Yes.
And she works with me. And like, she's the one that's doing the majority of the editing now and things like that. So like, so much of like the wedding video stuff is like collaborative between the two of us. And so she's kind of my grounding anchor there that keeps me from like, hey, we need to buy all of these. Like, we need to buy everything. She's like, no, like, you don't need the new Sony A1. You don't need 8K. But like, we could get it. Yeah, we could, but we don't need that. Like, okay. So,
well, you're using a word that we use a lot because we run a different business model than you. But I think at the end of the day, like, there's a massive amount of cost that goes with being. So you're never going to get away like spending nothing on your gear. That's a mistake. Yeah. But I think the idea of, do I need something? So talk a little bit about like, how does someone know when they need something? Even like the idea of a better film is always an amorphous blob to me. It's like, better to who? You know? Like, so how do we know?
There are general industry trends that you need to look at, and also like personally how you shoot. So if we're talking general industry trends, the jump to 4K, for example, like the amount of people that are saying like, 1080 is fine, you don't need 4K, that group is growing smaller and smaller, and like more and more people are like, okay, 4K really is awesome. Everything's getting shot in 4K. A lot more things are being delivered in 4K. People are asking about 4K. Like, whenever grandma's like, should I get a 4K TV? You're like, okay, crap, 4K's here. We probably need to like consider this here to some degree. It's not 100% there yet. Like, 1080 is still a great thing, but it's moving in that direction. So you want to like keep trends with the industry there. I spoke at an event in New York in 2017, I want to say. And I had a woman come up to me and she's like, I'm still shooting on tape. Do you think I should buy a DSLR? And I was like, it's time. I got to tell you, I think it's time. Probably should do that. And
she would be in the group of the laggards.
Exactly. But there literally are still people that comment on my YouTube videos like, buy a real film camera, DSLRs aren't it. And I'm like, are you sure? You sure about that? Like, okay, like it's real weird, man. So like follow industry trends. The other thing is like you personally, is this gear going to help you shoot better films? And like that can be, sort of an amorphous thing, like you were saying, like, ooh, better cinematography. What the heck does that mean? But like for me, I'm looking for things that are going to make my job easier. Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, I now get 10-bit with the A7S III, so color grading is significantly easier. I'm saving many hours of time, like fighting with skin tone colors and things like that. I now can just do a few tweaks and my colors look awesome.
Yep.
Love that. Other features like, oh, does this camera have IBIS now? Okay, that's gonna make shooting on me easier because now, back in the day, I was like, I gotta lug my monopod around, and so we're always stabilized. Now it's like, oh, I can shoot handheld. This is making my life easier on a 12-hour wedding shoot. There's a lot of things you need to look at for yourself that are like, this may not make the film like, oh, it looks prettier, but like for your work life and your workflow, it can be completely worth it to upgrade in that reason.
Yeah, I would say that kind of goes with our reason internally, which is, does it solve a problem? Does it solve a problem? Is there a problem I'm having that this solves? And usually it's a risk aversion problem, like mitigating risk, mitigating failure points, like creating your safety. Because we all know you don't get do-overs in weddings. So I will always recommend an upgrade that gives you redundancy, that creates more safety. Every shot, if I run in a room, okay, IBIS does that. Having IBIS protects you when you're like, oh, do I have time to go balance this gimbal, blah, blah, blah. It's not a replacement. They're not even close to the same shot, but it's a different shot, but you need it, 32-bit float to some level. It's a safety thing.
Dual card slots on camera to record redundancy.
Yep.
Awesome. Love it.
All that stuff is, if you're looking at your workflow, where am I exposed in my workflow? Mm-hmm. And can I tell you the number one thing that cheeses me when it comes to wedding filmmakers? This drives me nuts. They're so cheap with their storage. They will drop $20,000 on a camera rig, and then they'll be recording on a single 2-disc RAID 0, no redundancy. And then I show them a thing. I'm like, oh, this is a great thing. It's $3,500 for 20 terabytes, and it's really fast and awesome. And they're like, no way, so expensive. Literally scoff at you. It's that is part of your kit, guys. You need, and I think so anything that's solving a problem, giving you more safety, you're running a business. You're not running a multi-million-dollar business, by the way. Most people cannot afford to return someone's money for their wedding.
Yep.
That's what's at stake with bad gear.
I remember when we first started in 2010, and looking back, I'm like, there were so many. Do you remember, Matt, did you ever film on the Canon 5D Mark II at all? Do you remember that camera?
Yeah. I bought a Canon 7D instead of the 5D Mark II.
Loser.
At a recommendation, because at the time, in 2009, the 5D Mark II did not shoot 24p. Only the 7D did.
Yes.
And so that was a firmware update that came a year later.
Yes.
And so I was like, dang it, I could have bought the 5D. And all these people are like, oh, you're not shooting full frame. And I'm like, sorry about that. I play that 24.
Losers. Yeah. 12-minute record times, though, right? And think about all the restrictions that we had. We were editing in Final Cut Pro 7 at the time. And just what we had to do to just get the footage on the hard drive. No autosave, these.
No auto sync either. So you had to literally. Do you remember eyeing the waveforms?
Yep.
Yeah, pluralize didn't exist. All these things. It's never been easier to be a filmmaker than it is right now, and that's mainly due to the gear, right? And it's just made filming weddings cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And most people, as far as I know, aren't lowering their prices over time. So, it is an industry trend that everyone's making, ideally making more money.
If I buy a Fuji X-T4 rig, I'll have way more capability than if I shot on my way more expensive Canon 5D Mark II rig. Mm-hmm. That was a way more expensive rig. That was like a $20,000 rig we'd show up with easily when you add all the crap together. And now you can show up with like $6,000 of Fuji gear and get like 10-bit 4K 60 with IBIS.
Yeah.
And then, that's not even looking at something as incredible as like a Sony A1, So I think when you're looking at gear, you mentioned some really good points. And I think ultimately, like, I think it's okay sometimes to buy something because it's fun too.
Sure.
Like, I think that's okay. But like, don't
I need that FPV drone.
Yeah, you need it. You need it because it will give you life in your art, and that's what matters.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, we talked about it recently. Like, Matt, we just sold 12 5D Mark IVs and Mark IIIs. Like, we've had those cameras and used them. Like, they were our workhorses for 6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And like, what is the balance? I mean, we have full like Blackmagic kits, and then we have our full Fuji kits too. So we dabble. But as far as like our main workhorse cameras, I mean, that was it for years. And we were like, no, we're going to hold off another year. We're going to hold off another
I've
year.
never delivered.
Because that's just profit, right?
Well, yeah, this is what I would say to people. I'm sure you would do this as well, Matt. But like, no matter what, don't replace your gear. Don't replace a camera body unless you've had it for 3 years. That's my personal rule. Financially speaking, is like, I need my lenses to be a 5-year investment. And that's how we do it. And if you're doing your accounting, and my camera bodies are a 3-year investment. And like,
I mean, I upgraded the A7S III from the A7S II. So that was literally 5 years.
Yeah.
And
wow.
People were like, you got the A7 III, right? Nope. Just, if I had known it was going to take this long, I would have upgraded the A7 III. But I'm like, the A7S III is probably coming real soon. And then like 3 years later, I'm like, it's probably still coming. And someday, I hope. Oh my gosh.
Well, and your client still paid you. So.
Oh yeah.
And like, that's what people need to realize is like, I think it's okay to do something for you when you want to do it. If you can afford it, makes it more fun, whatever. But do be honest when it's not like you said, keeping up with industry trends is important. Doing things just because you want to do them, I think that'll help you when you just start thinking about your gear as an investment that's supposed to be returning on that investment. It'll help you. Like, not. I know a guy who would switch. Remember, he switched from Canon to Nikon to
Fuji to Canon.
Fuji to Canon again within 4 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's nuts. He can't be making any money. So in terms of the gear, do you feel like we're finally hitting a point where like the idea of like gear is kind of like gear's getting out of the way, and now people are just like whoever they are as creators is who they are?
I mean, that's a really positive, hopeful thought to have. Definitely like, oh man, people are getting out of the way, getting all their thoughts about gear out of the way, and they're finally focusing on the art and the true creativity and the style. And it's to some degree, but I still see way too many drone shots in wedding videos that people are like, oh, it looks cool, I had to put it in. I'm like, okay, like that happens a lot. I still see a lot of shots that people do just because they're like, this is a cool thing for me to do. I gotta do the cool shot.
Vortex
versus, like,
spins on their on their gimbal.
I don't think I've seen a lot of that.
I've seen a couple at WPPI. There was like ton of those, like woo, 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 just spinning shots, which is fine. Like I think there's a time and a place for that, but not just because you can do it. I guess I would say this, Matt. That's just revealing that these people they have a lot of work to do on their art. Like people can't make an excuse anymore about their gear. Gear is no longer an excuse. Like the gear is so easy to use. It's so affordable. It's moving into a place like when you were shooting in the old Mark II days, everything's manually focused and it's freaking wicked expensive. And like you had $1 million and you didn't have any slow-mo. Do you think about that? We shot for 6 years, 24p only.
Hey, that's why I bought the 7D, see?
Yep.
Had 60 at 720p.
Yep.
Crispy. Yes.
But like you look at that stuff and it's like, now it's like everyone's camera can do everything. And so you can't blame your camera.
100%.
And you said it too, Matt, like minimalism is in right now, right? And like going handheld, like we just bought our Fujis last year and we developed a whole nother product that's just fully handheld. It was completely different from our tripod, monopod, slider kind of get up. And I think I've found that to be the case myself, Jay. I haven't really thought about it, like how just getting the right piece of gear, making it smaller is really making it so that you can think less about the gear because the gear is just going to work. It's less double checking. And, hopefully, I think that has to do with a lot of young filmmakers kind of pouring into the industry, which I think is really kind of positive.
Let's talk about that really quick. Young filmmakers, what's next in the industry? Because I'm 38. I feel like I'm like slowly just becoming very uncool.
You're on the way out. It's true.
It's been going for a while.
Yeah. But like I'm seeing like, like this year, not that they're young, but I think they created a young style. Like, they're young. He's young at heart, Alex and Whitney. But like they make the list of Harper's Bazaar, right? Finally, of wedding filmmakers doing something like, not to say like the other people on the list aren't creating interesting art, but like I wonder if that's like a sign of like it's okay to be weird now.
I think that people are getting more comfortable with that, and we're getting away from this sort of very manicured, like glossy, here's this wedding, this is what it should be, this is what it needs to look like. And I think that like people watching YouTube has helped with that. I think that people watching like vlogs has helped with that. I think that the whole trend of Instagram and everything else, people like, oh, I gotta have authentic, real, like people don't want that sort of veneer of Hollywood gloss. They want like, show me the real stuff, show me the gritty stuff and the ridiculous stuff. And so like for us, like I've started putting more just ridiculous things in our videos. And I had a friend literally send me this clip that he shot at this wedding, and it's like the groom's brother running up to the couple like completely butt naked. And it's just like, is this gonna be in the video? Like this is like what is happening now, but it's just like the most weird, like random, like that would never be in some like high or glossy like wedding video, like, oh, this isn't prim and proper. But it's like, okay, like I feel like audiences now are like, I can handle some weird stuff. Yeah, okay. Show me some stuff. I don't know.
Well, I think it just means like if you're getting into the industry, I think this is like the best time ever to get going in the industry, because you can still make like the Larev polished luxury product. You can make the arts house kind of sculpting with time product. You can make the hipster product. You can make the like irreverent, like there's so much opportunity to make what you want to
whatever you want to do.
It is. Yeah. There's a market for it, and the gear is so accessible now.
It felt like it used to be when you get in the industry, it's like you start at like these ballroom weddings and at like the Marriott, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to deal with terrible lighting all day. It's going to be oranges and then blue, outdoor lighting. You're competing with each other all day, and I'm going to make the worst film of all time. And then you kind of work your way up, and then eventually you're moving to like nicer venue after nicer venue.
You finally earned good light.
You finally earn your good light. Yeah, that's true. And then you're doing these luxury weddings, and now you can finally do a good wedding film, right? And I feel like that is changing with creativity changes that completely. It's like gives it a complete curveball where it's like now people are like, no, you don't have to have a luxurious wedding on the coast of, Newport, Rhode Island with sailboats in the background in order to create a good wedding film. It's just like, find the couple, pitch the vision, and you can do a cool, really neat wedding video that's just super creative because the market is there for it. I think more than ever. Yeah.
I'm interested, Matt, to hear your take on this. How do you feel YouTube is influencing wedding films now?
Man, that's good. That's real good. I feel like for the longest time, Vimeo had such a stranglehold on the wedding video market, especially where people are like, I gotta post to Vimeo. Like I'm always posting my videos to Vimeo. It's like, okay. And it was almost like that goes back to that sort of glossy, like this is what a wedding film should be look. It was like I'm watching wedding films and it almost feels like they're trying to be like Vimeo staff picks or something like that. Like, okay, what are we trying to do with this here? And I feel like YouTube is really democratize that. And for better or for worse, whenever you finish, like, it could be the best wedding video ever. Like, YouTube's going to pop up some suggestions. And if it's me, it's like Coco Melon. Like, you want to watch some fun and games? Like, let's watch some.
I hate Coco Melon
Mary
so
Had
much.
a Little Lamb. Let's watch some Mary Had a Little Lamb. Like, so you lose that, like, no, stay in my glossy high-end art ecosystem. Like, nope, gotta click away and watch some sheep or something. Just the most random crap. But, like, I love that there's just it's not just this, like, niche, like, art bubble anymore. It's like, this is the internet. You're on it. Here, watch this stuff. And you have to compete more. Like, you have to make videos that really grab people's attention. And if you don't do that, people are going to click away.
Well, it's interesting is, like, Jared and I don't ever post our videos to YouTube. Like, we do not do YouTube as a company. We never
scared?
have.
We've started to more.
Once a year we do it. We we have a
We'll
week where we do our publishing. We just go
Yeah.
through and publish our films.
Well, so I have a story about that this last year.
Oh, geez.
And I lost all heart, Matt. Yeah, so we posted to Vimeo, and Vimeo has this brand new feature about where you post to Vimeo and it automatically posts to YouTube, right? And it was great. We were like, all right, we have this new feature. Now we can finally
I don't even really think we knew what it did, really. We never used it.
No, we were like, we can finally be YouTubers, and we can post our wedding films to YouTube because we're posting to Vimeo. You know, this is technology. It's automation. The robots are coming. Great. So we were like, all right, let's do this. We post to Vimeo. It's private. On YouTube, not so private. And so the bride literally...
Apparently it doesn't inherit the permissions.
No, it doesn't inherit... Well, you can, but we didn't know this because we're dumb or something. And so we posted it, and literally, I think it was like the next day or 2 days later, the bride is like, why did you post my wedding film to YouTube without my permission? And we were like, I've never had that problem before. I was like, what in the world? First of all, why are you upset about that? Like, it's your wedding film. Like, we can post it to our website if you wanted.
You signed an NDA.
Yeah, no, we don't. We didn't. And so she was upset, but she was more upset that we didn't send it to her right away. And typically, I like to just review our films before we send them out because our editor Kyle is amazing. But just to peek through it and make sure it kind of matches up with the conversations that I've had with Bride. So she was very upset. So that kind of took the wind out of my YouTube sales, and we've been. You know, since everything is hinging on me doing a lot of it, I just haven't really.
Actually, on a good advice standpoint, I will say you don't need to do everything. And we were like, we're doing a lot. We don't need to try to do this. We are aware, though, and I will say this on the other side, you might need to do that. So
Yeah.
that might become the thing you have to do to be booked as a wedding, especially if you're new and starting out. I don't know. It's the second biggest search engine in the world,
Yeah.
YouTube.
On a good advice standpoint, to use your terminology, can we talk about wedding film critiques, Matt? Because it's something that you've done for a really long time, faithfully and really well. It's also kind of a legacy of wedding film school and something that we've inherited, you know, from Craig and previous bearers of the wedding film school torch. What you just mentioned it, talking about drone footage in every wedding film. What are some main things that you see beginner filmmakers do that kind of stand out and you're like, these are things that you should be avoiding as a new filmmaker?
Biggest one by far, aside from the overuse of drone footage, which is pretty egregious at times, the biggest issue that I see is also the thing that I always see first. And that is, I get these videos that I'm start watching where they show beautiful scenery. Maybe the video opens with a drone shot. And then we've got, here's some trees, here's some nature, here's the venue, here's the bride's dress, here's the rings, here's the flowers, here's some empty chairs. Also, here's the gazebo, the arbor, here's a random cow in the field. We've got it all here. And like, I literally have watched videos where I'm a minute and a half in. Usually it's like 30 to 40 seconds, though, is like the sweet
honestly,
spot of,
Matt,
yeah.
I was going to say 40 seconds.
Yeah.
40 seconds.
Yeah, it's 40 seconds, and then I finally see it. a human face. Finally. And sometimes it's not even a human face. Sometimes they'll be like, it'll show like a hand. It'll be like a close-up like somebody's hand, or like a ring, like with a hand, or like the back of someone's head. I'm like, this is about people. The wedding video is about people. Where are the people? Where are they? And so, like, it really bugs me because I get it. Like, it's so, hey, we're wedding videographers. We like the couple spend a lot of money on those details. By all means, show them. But if you're trying to like make me want to watch a video, the quickest way to just kill all of my interest in watching the video is to make me look at like place settings and here's a nice vase. Okay, cool, it's a vase. Like, show me that before the reception. That's fine. But like, get to the video.
When we did our 7 mistakes, that was my mistake. There's like we did a podcast on mistakes wedding filmmakers make, and mine was like just being obsessed with these stupid detail shots. Like when you're young, like or new, maybe not young, but new, you're like, wow, I can finally explore a new world of a really close shot of a flower.
or you got your 50 millimeter 1.2 and you're like, look at the depth of field, it's so cinematic, bokeh, and then you're filming sailboats on a mantle and you're like, look at this beautiful
you just
shot.
Like roll focus from one stupid sailboat to the next sailboat.
I think the most egregious was my second shooter. We had recently upgraded to Sony we started with Canon 7D, and I bought a Sony FS100 and he bought a Sony FS700. And the main key point of the FS700 is it shoots 240 frames per second. Beautiful, crispy 1080p imagery, to which we clearly realized we should shoot everything in 240 frames per second. Why would we ever not? And so I remember we shot this wedding and it was like out in the Texas countryside. And I want to say I started that wedding video with a solid 30 seconds of just rolling pasture land. Like, me driving 70 miles per hour down some back road and him filming out the window, just like cows going by and trees and grass, and like all at 240 FPS, so it's just really slow.
It was like a 40-minute long film.
Like Philip Bloom made those videos where he was like driving through the city of London. He did one in Vegas, and it's super pretty because it's 240 FPS, or like 1,000 FPS. And it's these people just walking down the street, and it's super interesting because you're seeing all these people moving slowly. This video was the exact opposite of that because it was just empty fields. And I remember I got that video critiqued, and they were like by a wedding videographer friend of mine, and they were like, "What is happening?" And I'm like, "FS700, man, you got to show that slow-mo."
Slow-mo equals good. That's actually another one is I think like too much slow-mo and too much gimbal. Those are like, and it's not that those are bad things. I think you could make an entire film in slow-mo and be good, an entire film on a gimbal and be good. Like tough, harder, but I think you could do it. I think it's like lack of intentionality with how you use your equipment. It's like unthoughtful shooting, like just not planning anything. There's no concept. It's just like, I got a tool. I need to show that it can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like working out with just like one arm and just pumping that one arm. You have a huge gimbal arm. That's your one skill you're good at. And then the other skills are just like garbage. Like we've done a couple that are just full gimbal, and it's like, he's a good gimbal operator, but it's boring because it's just all gimbal, And
that comes back to gear acquisition syndrome too, where you're like, I bought this gimbal, I gotta use it, and so you're like, I gotta use it a lot in this video. Bought the FS700, I need to shoot everything in slow motion now.
Totally.
No, you really don't. Like, what? One shot's plenty. You don't even have to use that one shot if you don't want to. You could not, and it might be okay.
And part of being a good filmmaker is understanding nuance. I mean, that's really what, like, I think a lot of what being a good filmmaker is, and knowing when the right moment is to use the tool. I think that's when you know that you're going places as a filmmaker.
I was watching Hard Target the other night with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
And
what year is that?
Oh, I want to say like 94.
Okay.
But that was John Woo, like old school John Woo. And like cheesy movie. But like, you know what John Woo did awesome? His use of 48 and 24, when he'd be going back and forth between 48 and 24. Like, you know what I want to see in slow motion? A spinning split kick by Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't want to see everything in slow motion. I want to see the kick. And it's like, that's stupid and cheesy, but like, it's just no filmmakers make films the way that wedding filmmakers make films. Like, because wedding filmmakers have no sense of pace. They don't understand creating dramatic tension. They just do one thing and they think it's cool. And I think, by the way, this isn't a criticism like, quit doing it, you're a loser, stop making films. Because like, you can make a great living being pretty mediocre, and I think that's okay, like, for you. But if you're looking to get better and you're trying to improve, like, figuring out like, how do I be intentional and actually like use things for a reason, and it's okay if you only do it, like you said, once or twice or not at all.
Jason, I really like that, because you started to drift to like full-on Northeasterner, like you suck,
I had
this
to
is terrible,
calibrate.
and then you're like, oh crap. What I really mean is maybe be nicer and maybe don't do that so much, and that'll be more helpful to all of us. I'm like, wow, Jason's growing. This is so great.
Yeah. Well, we often you know, I work with young people all the time, and I realize like they can't take it. Jared, you go talk to them.
So good.
Jared, though, is like often will say to guys like exactly what you said. Like, actually, there's one shooter we have, and he's like, oh, he hates faces. He always, because
He hates people. Yeah, hates people, loves his like pans from the ceiling to the, you know, bride in the chair. And I'm like, no one wants to feel that motion.
I think you have to be very cognizant of what the bride and groom want. And especially like what shots are flattering and what people are like, oh,
I'm
that's
glad
gonna
you
look
said
really
that.
good. Okay, great. Because if not, like, it's not a good shot. Like, don't use it. I remember that going back to like gear stuff and all. I bought. This was way pre me actually doing anything with like YouTube in terms of like any of the momentum that I have now. But I made a review of this Canova camera slider that I still use, by the way, for YouTube videos, and I don't bring it to weddings. But I somehow got in with this company, and they were like, we want to send you some stuff, and you make reviews of it. So it's like my earliest reviews are maybe making like reviews of this like camera slider. But they sent me one of those tabletop dollies, but it's like, it weighs about the same as a car, and it's just massive. And it had like a laser pointer. It was super cool. I tried to actually sell it on Instagram like 3 months ago, and nobody would buy it. I was like, okay, nobody wants this thing. Whatever.
I'll give you $100 to take it. No,
Yeah, now they have
Just
like
somebody
those-
take this away from me. Like, there's no like young, hungry filmmakers out there like, oh yeah, I want a tabletop dolly. They're like, nah, I don't need that. No, I'm good. But I like brought it to a wedding, and I was like, I need to use this. And I remember like my concept was, I'm going to put it on the side of the dance floor and do these low shots of showing people's feet, or like filming up their faces from like down low, which is like, looking back, it's the least flattering shot you could ever use. You know, it's just like, there's people's heads up there, I see them in the distance, here's some feet down here. Like, none of it looks good. That was a thing for a few weddings.
Jared always says, when he's doing like internal critiques, and actually when he does the film, he always goes, that's not flattering to the bride. Which literally it can be a good shot in every way, but it's a bad shot if the bride doesn't look flattering. It's a bad shot if the groom doesn't look flattering. You are creating something like lifestyle art, where a person they want to look dope. People want to look cool in the wedding film. They want to look beautiful.
The whole reason they're booking a video and photo is like, this is the best I'm gonna look in my entire life. Capture that, like, make me look good.
Yeah, both of those worlds exist in the same space, where it's like the bride wants to look a very certain way, but then also, you know, it's not about you creating your own kind of film. It's about creating a film that the bride is going to like. But if you create something that the bride is going to like, more than likely the film is going to be overall great as well. So it's like, you know, like the butt shot. I always hate the butt shot. And, you know, that's probably a personal thing. And for me, doing like critiquing films is something that's new to me on YouTube. It's not new to me on the back end, because I critique our shooters all the time. But the butt shot is one thing that I'm like, I can't stand the butt shot where it's like looking at a low angle of the bride as she's like walking by, or like, you know, her butt is like right in the shot while she's dancing. I'm like, no bride is going to like that angle specifically. And that's just understanding like composition. That's
and
understanding
it's
lenses.
intentionality.
Yeah.
Because I know that like Sharon Calafiore, one of my favorite films that she's made, has like a scene where the groom is like biting the bride's butt, but like it builds up to that moment, and it's like this is it. Like I think the still of that video is like the groom biting her butt, but it's like this is what we're building up to. Okay, cool, and I love that.
Well, that's a story about the couple.
Yes.
Exactly.
She's not thinking about, oh, my butt looks so big there. She's thinking, that's hilarious. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like, the hardest part when I look at like young new filmmakers is like, somebody told me the other day, I did a critique, and I'm like, this is not a good song. It's just not good. Like, it doesn't work. It has bad sounding digital strings, sounds cheap, and also this is in a minor key, and these people are literally talking about partying. This is a party Southern people, and you're doing this minor key song with cheap, crappy fake strings. That's a lot to unload on somebody. That's what I would say to my guy. I'd be like, what the heck are you doing, dude? Fix this. It sounds like terrible. But like this guy, he honestly was like, oh, this is a great song. I'm going to pick a great song. And so I will say to someone like, be okay making really bad mistakes.
Sure.
It's great to get feedback, and it's okay. Like, you are going to make, like, when you were telling about your Dolly, what do you remember the Red Rock Micro one-man crew?
Yep.
We used to bring that to weddings, put it on the dance floor side.
just slowly going back and forth, just on the side,
it was like
we'll cut to that occasionally. Don't you worry. Like,
You'll see a centimeter of motion on our wide shot
on the 16 to 35.
Like we offer, you start offering like. No, our dock edits are full dock edits. It literally rolls the entire reception.
Yes.
You will see every person dancing the entire time.
But like, we've done all kinds of stupid stuff like that. And it's like, it's cool. Like the first song we ever used in our wedding films, we tell this story all the time, literally had a line about getting high on your own supply. Like just stupid stuff that we did. And it's okay. Like, but you do make a lot of like mistakes when you're starting out. And that's why I love what you're doing with the critiques, because like people can look at that and be like, oh, it kind of made me feel bad. I mean, I would say Matt's kind of earned it because he's made himself feel bad for many years.
I feel like you can definitely critique more if you've already made those mistakes yourself and you're like, no, listen, I did this for years. You shouldn't do it. Trust me. You'll understand in a while.
Yep. Like, and even like if you didn't make a mistake, of course, like finding people who have strengths in these areas, like they're just sick at certain things. Like, who knows if Alex Douglas ever made a bad wedding film? Who knows? Like, I don't know. Like, I even saw like the hand footage he shot of him and his wife, and I'm like, this is better than any film I've ever made.
You got to go back to the Vimeo page and start digging back through the archives. Like, there's got to be crap back here somewhere. I know it. Hold on, let me. Dang it! It just never happened. Like, okay. But like every once in a while there are people like that. But I think at the end of the day, like you had mentioned it before. There are so many open, giving people in the wedding film community, and like if you're listening to this and we kind of like you're like, oh man, I do all that, and I kind of feel bad. Like I would say you don't need to, because most of us, we were not shooting on all the great gear you were, so our films were way worse. Hey Matt, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the show, and like we definitely are big supporters of the channel, so it means a lot that you'd come on and hang out. Yeah, glad to be here. It was a lot of fun.
Everybody knows Who Is Matt, YouTube channel, website. Tell everybody, where can they look at your wedding films?
Wedding films are available at filmstrong.com, because that is the wedding video company that I started way before YouTube got bigger. But honestly, we're posting all the wedding films to my YouTube channel now, so basically if you search Who Is Matt on anything, I'm there, except for TikTok, which I was not quick enough to get the Who Is Matt.
Who has that?
Some kid.
Some punk.
Yeah.
We'll
some
find
punk
him.
Troll him.
Some some Gen Z, I'm sure, taking my username because I was too slow to jump on the bandwagon. Also, Twitter. I don't really post Twitter often.
You don't Twitter?
I don't tweet that often, but there was I tried to get the username for Who Is Matt, and there's another Who Is Matt who posts really inappropriate jokes. It's not me, I promise. Yeah, my friend's grandma was following that other one, and she's like, Matt's posting some weird stuff, and my friend's like, that's not him. No, unfollow that guy. That's not. It happens.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. If you enjoyed this very long YouTube video, then I would encourage you to like, subscribe, and do all the YouTube stuff. I don't need to explain that to you because, you're addicted to YouTube, so you know how it works. But thanks for checking out the Wedding Film School Show.